Welcome to Martini Time, the happy time of the day. Beautiful day in Blackstone, the center of the world. But then you too are the center of the world. So I was just took a nap and started writing on Facebook. And I wrote on, the question was, that I wrote about was, is Trump a religious cult? And there was a little documentary about that, answering question. And so I wrote about it, and so I want to talk to you about it because it's interesting and important, I think, to understand. But you have to widen the understanding of what religion and a cult is, so it's not too narrow. You need a broader understanding. So let's take a look. Okay. First of all, what does a religion do? Take away the divinity part of it. What does it do for us? Why do people get into a religion? Well, it gives you certainty. It gives you a place in life. It gives you a way to perceive and understand facts. In other words, it gives you a way of looking at the world that makes sense to you. So it really has mythological significance here. First, this is what according to Joseph Campbell, this is what mythology does. There are 4 functions of mythology. The first one is to give you a sense of wonder and discovery about the world. Number 2, the cosmological aspect of it is to give you a way of structuring the world, the way of understanding how things are, a way of organizing the world. Because the world, without that, it's just a bunch of facts. It's just a snowstorm. And the third function is the social function, which gives you a place in society, gives you status and meaning, and gives you a reason, and gives you a purpose, and a destiny, and a history, a place in the world. And the fourth function is psychological. It gives you stages of life and everything. Well, the first and the fourth, we'll talk about the first 2 that a religion could provide. Because science gives us the wonder of the world. If you want to discover something, science discovers wonders all the time. And the psychological aspect, you go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist or whatever, or a shrink. But the second and the third, the social structure and your structure of the world and your place in society are provided by religion, if you care to. So, a religion then is that which centers you, organizes your life, gives you a place, gives you meaning, tells you what's what the future is, restores your pride, restores your meaning, restores your value. And then a cult is just a group of people who come together with a leader in order to achieve those benefits. So, let's take like Trump then. So usually in a religion or cult, there is several universal factors in it. Is that the leader is inspired. He may descend on an escalator from above. He's from the outside. He's not from the establishment. He speaks your language. He's one of you. You understand him. He promises with conviction that he will restore your life, restore your status, your prosperity, your meaning in life, the place you feel you've lost, the status, the jobs, the productivity, all of that, I'll restore. And the leader will not restore it through traditional means. He will restore it on willpower. I alone will restore it. Personal willpower. And he doesn't rely on the experts. He relies on his instinct, like an action hero. His gut tells him what to do. And so he comes from the outside, and he promises to fix you. And he just says, let me be your voice. I will be your voice. I will restore, I will give me your power, and I will fix you and restore your world to your original paradise. I will restore that. So on a very local level or on a universal level, the promise is the same, you see. Either I'm going to restore mankind, the exiled, either I will restore you to the Garden of Eden, to lost paradise, or I will just get you a job. So it's the same structure going on there. So as you can see how Mr. Trump connects those dots and those points, you see. And so once you shift, once you go, he's the one. He's what I've been looking for. He satisfies my yearning. He completes the picture. He's the one that was promised. And so that is not a choice. It's not like, well, let me weigh the pros and cons here, and I'll vote for them. Okay, no. It's not an intellectual calculation. Maybe for some, but I mean, what we're talking about is a shift, is a sudden seeing, a sudden transfer of my lost power to my restored power, you see. When I feel that I've lost power, I have no center, I'm just wandering, I'm just shifting from one addiction to another, there comes a time when there's a shift. And maybe the alcoholic becomes sober and he says, God did it. Well, there was a shift, you see, or Jesus, or my wife did it, or the psychiatrist did it, or whatever. In other words, this is very common, this sudden shift, you see. So we could say that then with Trump there was during the campaign, when he demonstrated, not just described, but he showed that he could defeat all of the contenders and be the last man standing. That he could do what he promised, you see. So he showed during the campaign, not by words, but by action, that he was the one that represented the people that had lost their power. He had power, because he defeated all those people. So in other words, there was a shift, an allegiance. And it was just, and so then it's kind of like with advertising. Suddenly you don't know, well, should I get Coke or Pepsi or Diet Pepsi or something? You see a Coke ad. Coke is the real thing. That's it, I'm going to drink Cokes. And then you're a Coke brand. I don't drink Pepsi, I drink Coke. Coke's the real thing. Or cigarettes did it, Lucky Strikes. All those other brands. How do you become loyal to Lucky Strikes? So how do you become loyal? There's a shift. there's a loyalty. But in politics, or with a cult, when you give your power to the leader, he becomes infallible. He becomes, because you say, well, whatever he's doing is for me, and his enemies are going to try and keep him from doing his job. So it's the enemies that are making him do what he does, you see. But he's doing it for me. So he becomes infallible that way. And if you give your power of individual conscience, the power of doubt, to someone else, you can't doubt them. You don't have the power. You gave it to them. This happens in all kinds of relationships. When you give your discrimination to someone else, then they tell you what's right and wrong, and you say, oh, well, okay. Who am I to object, you see? So is Trump a religious cult? Well, it connects the dots, so you decide. Thanks for dropping in.